Hi, folks. Welcome to Let's Just Go. This is Kevin and Casey's Modern Missionary Podcast, where we discuss courage, family, theology, barbecue, life, and other things.
Today's topic is the Appalachian Trail. What is it for our family? And go into that a little bit. Before we get into the Appalachian Trail, it's been a while since we've recorded, and maybe we can just give a couple updates on what has been going on in our family.
That's a lot.
Well, it's a lot, but we can just name a couple of things.
Okay.
You pick one.
Topics that will turn into podcast
right,
episodes.
You pick one and I'll pick one. And then
we did the throw your mama and papa from the train adventure.
That's actually the really big one, I feel like.
Mm-hmm. That's where we, my brother, my sister, and I, their families, approached my mom and dad about the topic of moving out of their legacy, or what they might have once thought was their forever house, in a big ministry house, and totally uproot, re-examine, okay, what are the final golden years, a glory stretch going to look like, and how do you posture that the best? And so that entailed moving to a different state, leaving all their community and friends, and then casting a vision for what's next.
Yes, but you're leaving something out. When did that happen?
Less than 6 months ago.
I know.
Right.
Thinking in our mind, well, at least in my mind, I thought it was going to be a lot longer process than that, but ended up not being.
I, at one point, threw a crazy, they were like, what are you guys talking about? And I threw out this crazy 6-month, date just to make it stick in their mind that we were serious about really thinking of it. And 10 adventures have occurred in between then and now. They're all stories in and of themselves in less than 6 months.
Yes.
It's quite, that's going to be a good story to
it will
unpack
be.
sometime.
We will have a podcast about that. But I do have to say, I have been really impressed with their first wrapping their mind around moving, then all of the logistics of all of that, and getting them on the other side, which they're not quite done yet. But oh my gosh, that took up a lot of the summer.
Great adventure. Other things?
Well, I was actually going to talk about how many of us are taking college classes now.
You want me to answer it?
Yeah, because
you are.
Me.
And Jordan is.
Jordan.
And Hannah. Mm-hmm. And Rachel. Mm-hmm. Elijah, we just sent to Kennesaw State University freshman year. Mm-hmm. Malia's dual enrollment as a junior in high school, but that means she's also taking courses at Dalton State College.
Yes.
And I just started an advanced degree yesterday. That's 7 of our mainframe family members.
Yes, and that's crazy. And we took Elijah to school, and Rachel, of course, is going back to school, but the rest of us, well, I guess Jordan is going to Dalton State. The rest of us are online, but oh my gosh, I don't think we started counting everybody, and it was like, oh my goodness, we are going to be busy.
We have twice as many in college than people have in their family.
Yes. We could probably do an episode on that too, about how do you send your kids to college. I don't know that we're experts at it, really.
No, we're not
good at it, but, we probably do it like a lot of people. But anyway, anything else? What else?
Well, the Agora ministry program that we talked about starting a while back.
Which Jordan is also participating in that, which is cool.
And there's some things about that.
Mm-hmm.
But basically, we have not done a podcast for quite a while. And I feel like it's a huge dropped ball. And I think there's some lessons in it, is that it's hard to stop and then pick back up again.
Yes.
And you can talk all day long about having a routine. You have to actually have a routine. And I feel like what we did in knocking out the other ones is we just kept on every week paying the price, carving out that time to do it. Yeah. And so we would get it done, but something suffered because of it. And we just have a lot of things that we got to do. And so we got to prioritize if we're going to actually keep these going.
It was kind of easy to drop off just because of lack of routine or thought about it, or even just the busyness of life that, kind of comes up. And then to start again has been so difficult. But I feel like, it's good to get one under the belt and get it going again. So hopefully we can
take it more
develop
seriously.
that. Yeah, take it more seriously.
I think that's how I'm going into this, is taking this more seriously. If we're going to make something, we should spend some time marketing it a little bit and getting it out, sharing the stories broader, doing what you got to do.
Yep.
And we named goals that we had to begin with, and we were praying about them just before we started recording just now. And while they're the same ones, I just felt more serious about them. Getting some good stories out to other people that might encourage them, or be a mentoring piece, or even just stay in connection. But another one is, it was really cool for us to have this time each week.
Yeah.
And for us to, almost like a mini date.
Yeah, I really like that. I miss that about it. Another thing I think that's really important is taking myself seriously, being able to kind of like push through when I'm insecure about something. And actually taking classes that have kind of gone on in between from the time we stopped recording to now, I think has helped me really want and desire to do this well. So our subject today is the Appalachian Trail.
It's an important part of our guys' adventure, especially.
Yes.
Yeah. So how do you want to start? You want me to just talk about what it is, or do you have questions?
What does the Appalachian Trail mean to our family? What is it?
Well, every year when we're finishing up the school year and the summer is beginning, before it gets too hot and the school is out of the way, then there's sort of an expectation that we're going to decide to go on the trail, where we're going to go on the trail, how much of it we'll probably pour of ourselves into it, who all is available. And for most, all of the years that we've been doing it, it's been a guy's trip. Not that the girls can't go on the Appalachian Trail. It's just, it's that trip and that time frame is something for the guys to do with one another, except for this recent year, that is, where we brought all the girls on.
Yeah.
We started doing it when David turned 5 years old.
Yeah.
Our oldest kid was
gosh.
5.
He was a little baby.
And to this day, I know that younger people have gone on the trail. Even I think babies have been carried on it. But I've never, in all the years we've done it, I've never run into anybody under 10 walking on the trail.
Yeah.
And the boys start when they're 5 years old.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of cool too, is to look back as well. How early can you go into the wilderness and do adventuring and hard stuff and carry your own things and survival gear and be on the guy's trip? Well, you could do that at least as early as 5 years old. So that's kind of been the sense. We've got a map that we have on the wall of where we've been, and it really is not very far in relation to the whole trail. And, there's enthusiasts of the Appalachian Trail out there where they go, the first time they ever stepped on it, they virtually stayed on it for 6 months or so until they had hiked a total of 2,000 miles. And all we've gone is something like 500, plus miles on the trail total. And that's just a little tiny piece at a time. But
Right.
it's different for everybody. And this is what it is for us.
Right.
The commitment was to do it every year. And that meant David went when he was 5. The second year, David went. And we had, each time I had an extra adult, either my father, your dad, my brother Dan, or my brother-in-law Matt. One of those have always gone with us. And then the third year, Jacob picked up as 5 years old. And 7-year-old David then had to slow down to a 5-year-old pace because we were
Right.
going with the slowest.
I think back about, when David and Jacob, because David started at 5 and then went 2 years, and then Jacob started. I was thinking, did Elijah actually go when he was 5?
I don't think it was when he was 5. I think it might have been when he was 7. After a while, we moved to Hawaii, and then we were thousands of miles away from the Appalachian Trail. And if you're going to go back to the mainland, you're probably going to do some other things like family reunions first.
Right.
And so we were only able to do it every several years. So I think Elijah was probably 7
Okay.
when he first went on the trail. And then the boys were a lot older.
Yes. Well, I remember the difference in that trip because the boys were like in middle school. But I remember you talking about the difference in going with them a little bit older than when they were younger. So what did you have to carry? Like when David started out at 5, you pretty much carried everything.
No, well, I carried a lot and way too much. So I think almost every year we've done it wrong because, I mean, the real enthusiasts are
The ultralight.
right. The
Don't
ultralight,
carry anything.
and I've got to carry a bunch of cigars or pipes, and my flask of whiskey. My dad and I think we brought a 6-pack of bottled beers.
The French press.
One time, a French press. And then you have to carry these empty glass bottles out and extra pads for the older guys to sleep on underneath there. So our stuff, and also we don't have expensive equipment.
Right.
And cheaper equipment is heavier equipment.
Heavier, and it doesn't always function when you need it.
And if you have, a 2-man tent or a 3-man tent is a lot more than a 1-man tent.
Yeah.
Because it's not just the size, it's the poles have to be thicker to hold up as a 3-man tent. And so everything, there's a lot of weight. So when David first started, he had a pack. So
It was very
5-year-old.
small.
Pack on his back, a real backpack. He carried his clothes and his sleeping bag. Now, fortunately, clothes are small. Give him the light sleeping bag, and then all his snacks. So and he had a metal cup attached to a snap link that went cling, 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 cling every
Right.
step against his metal frame, and he had a bottle of water, but then his snacks, but then I carried the bigger tent and the meals food, and then the stove
And all the extras.
the collective stuff. So 5-year-old David, though, had a pack on his back, went into the wilderness, and for nearly a week hiked to mountaintop on the ridge of the Appalachian Trail. And so that's a big feat for
And where did you start at?
Springer Mountain. That's
Okay.
the southern terminus. It's now not far from where we live now. It's just several hours. And but we started on Springer Mountain, and then it goes northwards into Maine over just over 2,000 miles. So we start at the very beginning, where some people are coming off the trail because they started in the north, and you start to get those stories, right there around Springer Mountain.
Yeah.
And then what we did the next year was we were like, okay, where do we come off the trail? That's where we start this year. And then we just kind of map it and kept it going.
Right. And what I think is interesting is throughout the years, so like David started at Springer Mountain, but Jacob didn't.
Right.
And because you just keep forward progress, right? And so, and then when Elijah started and then Micah, they all have started at different locations and haven't done other pieces of it, which is ultimately going to be their responsibility to kind of do that on their own
Right.
if they want to. But still, they've seen different chunks of the trail. And then as Elijah and Micah grew, David and Jacob moved out of the house, and so they weren't always with you.
But
as you've
sometimes they
done.
came back, and so there's this gap of what
Right.
they did, and then a gap, and then what they didn't do. And I think, that's special in itself. It's different than people who have the pride and joy of having gone all the way through and been through hikers without ever stopping, sort of never stopping. And but this has its own also. This is about their dad in their formative years getting them going on the Appalachian Trail and marking what they have done. And if they want to finish it on their own, then that's how it's going to get done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go back and hike those other pieces
Right.
again for the ones that skipped it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I did a little bit of that this last year, and I guess I'll do some of it. But my goal is to pick up from where this is the boys following Dad's Appalachian Trail, and they were talking about that this year and last year a bit. This is really charting Dad's, and I'm the only one that's consistently gone to where we are now in Virginia.
Yeah.
But the vision is, at this pace I'm not going to finish unless I did it differently. But they have the chance to pick up and make of it what they want.
So go back to you starting with David at 5 years old, and I was just thinking maybe you can share like a story about him, especially since it was new and you were doing it for kind of the first time, those first 2 years, and then maybe a story with Jacob, but just a couple stories.
Okay. Yeah, well, the things that stand out is wanting to do some sort of a rite of passage for the boys. I felt like, at the time we had David, Jacob, and Jordan, and Hannah, even maybe? Not Hannah.
Yes.
Do we have Hannah at
Yes,
the time?
we had
So we had
Hannah.
4 kids, 2 boys, 2 girls, but David's on the radar at 5. And I wanted to do some sort of rite of passage. And so I just remember looking through the Appalachian Trail. Somebody, alerted me to it, and I was probably reading some rite of passage book, and how boys especially really thrive on having that transition and that separation and then that return. Mm-hmm. And so that really sticks in my memory, is looking at articles on that. And then all of the preparation. I remember the garage. We had all the stuff laid out, way too much stuff, but we're trying to think of everything if you're going to go into the wilderness. Mm-hmm. And I remember that was part of the Appalachian Trail. All that preparation, all the talk, the months. And it was the day before we left, and we're in the garage and packing stuff up again. And David turns to me and he just stops. So there's a 5-year-old kid, and he looks to me and he says, "Dad, thank you for bringing me on the Appalachian Trail." And for a 5-year-old to share the gratefulness at that level and to pause and I don't know what it was. It makes me think of how meaningful and deep it was to him, to this little kid. That's one of my favorite memories, not just of Appalachian Trail, but of David.
Yeah.
Another one is when we first got up to the top of that mountain, it was a thunderstorm. And there were lightning strikes on the mountain.
Yeah,
And it was a
I
crazy
did not like
night.
hearing this story when you came home and
my
told it
dad
to
was
me.
with us, and the tent was filled with water, and we were like, we are seriously in the wilderness. And all the days after that was there any like the first night on top of Springer Mountain when we almost got killed by the lightning storm?
Oh my gosh.
But the one story I like to share is that there was a couple days in, there was a man named David, a hiker named David. And so little David, called him Mr. David because he camped out with us at the same spot. David had a little boy about David's age that he was separated from because he had been divorced, and she got his son. Mm-hmm. So David's running around the camp, and he's crawling on things, and he's talking to Mr. David. Mr. David you could just see we talked with him, so we knew his story. He was just dying inside. And in the evening, our David had written a picture of the Appalachian Trail with the bear and the cables and where we had been, the waterfall. Mm-hmm. And he sat down. He came up to Mr. David, who was sitting on a rock around the campfire, and he goes, "Mr. David, can I show you my thing?" And he pulled out his drawings, and he says, "Yeah." So David crawls right up into his lap.
He's like,
and
"What?"
Mr. David's looking to see, is that okay, with us? And he's sitting there, and he's on his lap, and he's looking at his notebook, but little David is reaching above his head because that's where Mr. David's long goatee is.
Mm-hmm.
who he's sitting on his lap. And he's stroking his goatee. He's like pulling the hair on his goatee. And he's going, and this is the bear, and this is the waterfall. And this guy is like, what? He's just like, this is like my missing son. Mm-hmm. And at some point, little David stops talking about it and goes, Mr. David. And he says the Bible verse that we had memorized together and kind of created a little song about the Appalachian Trail, what it was for us. And he goes, Mr. David, he goes, come and see the works of God.
Awesome in deeds towards the sons of men.
Yeah, awesome in deeds toward the sons of men. Which is Psalm 66, verse 5. And you're just like, are we having church here? Yeah. But all the tendernesses that occurred on the trail along the way. And those are just the early stories.
Yeah, I think there's like you're in the wilderness, like really the wilderness. There's nothing. You're like in the deep Appalachian Mountains, and you think about the fragility of the situation with a little kid. Like there are things that could go wrong. There's extra planning that has to go into it. Of course, you've not ever done it before, so you have that extra awareness, I can't. And then, 2 years later, you end up taking Jacob, and oh man, he was always everywhere. And I was really like, how is that even going to work?
He went twice around every tree we passed, it seemed like, and he tried to jump on every stone along the way. So he effectively, his attention span is 0. And he's got no concept of rules and boundaries, and it's just life is beautiful and swim in it all.
Yeah.
And whenever we finished, I was thinking he has walked 2 or 3 times as much of the Appalachian Trail. And he would pick up snails along the way on the path and be like, oh, the snails are hiking the Appalachian Trail. Mm-hmm. And he would walk for a mile, and then he'd put them down, and he'd say, you got the rest, buddy. And
also, wouldn't he run off the trail into the trees, and you'd hear him stomp, 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 and he was chasing they would something, and then he'd
not
come
very
back
far. I mean, you didn't want to wander off. But yeah, little things,
detours.
Ground mice and things that would make noise. He was curious about everything. Yeah. But they would also, David and Jacob, they would be talking. They would be walking and talking. So there's a whole dynamic that changed.
Right.
When you brought another person on.
Mm-hmm.
And it was no longer me. I and whoever else, my brother or my dad, we were more of a background. It became the 2 boys. Mm-hmm. That it was the younger ones hiking the Appalachian Trail. There were 2 layers. There was the young ones, and then there was the old ones. But they would walk together, and they were talking nonstop for hours. And I could tell that they were often talking about Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And we got one time to a brook and stopped and had lunch and pulled stuff out. And David says, or Jacob says, David, what do you want to go through? What do you want to do next? Do you want to do Star Wars 3? And I was like, wait, what are you guys talking about? And he goes, we were deciding which Star Wars to do next. And I was like, what do you mean to do? They were walking along, and they were saying every single word to one of the episodes. And they had the characters, and they knew all the words word for word, and then they were trying to decide which episode to do next.
That's crazy.
They did that for hours and hours and miles.
How did you see yourself change from the beginning to when you started to add some of the younger boys, and your boys that you started off with got older? What changes did you see, I guess, in the situation, but also in yourself? Yeah.
Oh, that's a good question. I've never thought of that. Mm-hmm. I think that I did the trail differently. I really think there was a change when there were 2 kids. I was actually reading that rites-of-passage are the foundation of them is peer relationships. And like they have actual rites of passage programs and how to make rites of passage, but the foundational strength of them is the peer relationships. So it's them together. So maybe in one sense, I felt more like I was separated from the being, the constant guide. I was more like the check-in guide. And so I would think about how do I use all that time alone, walking and just paying attention to myself. But honestly, there's the things that you think about are what is my purpose in life?
Right.
Can I do this every year and take a big chunk of time out? I mean, it's more of a resetting. I think for me, it's always been a resetting. I don't think that it's ever changed me. I was already raised, and I was already old. Bigger things had raised me, but for me, it was a resetting for my year. And we would talk about trying our hardest when we got back to not leave the Appalachian Trail, but to stay on the Appalachian Trail.
Right. When you guys come back, you're so wild. Like, it's crazy how
you don't mess around with the small stuff.
Yeah. And just, there's a little bit of an edginess, which I really actually love. I love that. I love seeing, you and the boys especially come off the trail, and there's still like this kind of wildness in their eyes,
Yeah, it's a big investment of time when you have work and when you have projects that are then going to stack up and you got to get back to them. And so you got to count. You have to make sure that you're not going to have that when you come back.
Right.
Or you're going to think ahead also, or you're really going to carve that time out for it to exist. And that's an important part of assessing what is important. Because what goes on with the boys and how it affects them and you watch what they find is important, like the little mouse or the snake or the bugs or the rocks or the brook.
Yeah.
They find those things very important. And all the small attentions to detail, like how do you properly keep yourself clean, go to the bathroom, pick up your stuff, bring it out, clean the water. Those are really good for your soul and your character and for your happiness. And you need to be removed and go on to a lengthy time like the Appalachian Trail so that's all you're doing. You're just returning to all of those. It's a cleansing.
Yeah.
And so it changed my year to year is what it did. It changed, me for the year. Maybe all that added up together changes me overall.
Yeah. I remember you taking some video, and I never really thought about this, but it's
like this
just
is the
you.
Appalachian
This
Trail?
is the Appalachian Trail, and it's just you walking on a path, and in the background you can hear the tin cups going ding, 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 and it's like hours of that. Right. All day long.
Right.
And how was that hard for you? Did you see it was hard for the boys? I know that, when David and Jacob started going on the trail, there wasn't as much like social media. There wasn't a lot of that stuff as there was maybe for our other boys. I don't know, but how do you just walk?
That's part of the whole thing. You think there's going to be lots of thinking. There is lots of thinking, but it's not the kind of thinking you think of. It's the more like not meditation, but contemplation. It's more like emptying out of what you would meditate on.
Yeah.
So that you're receiving what you otherwise wouldn't be thinking of. And so it's more of an openness, but it's boring.
Right.
It's uninteresting. It's not like lots of amazing things to see that are just spectacular, but you're lost in the woods. And I remember doing a couple of those videos that you're talking about, and I actually on a couple of them I said, "This is what we do on the Appalachian Trail," and then I just face it forward, and then I walk for a long period of time, and there's nothing.
Yeah.
And every step looks like the next step, really, and it's that for hours and hours and hours, up to 20 miles a day.
Yeah, I know. I
And
got
you
that. I
just
was
keep
like,
on.
oh my gosh, I never thought of
And
that
then, yeah,
before.
in some ways, you kind of rediscover each other when you have a stop.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, how was your hike?
Did the boys seem to do okay with that? Like,
Yes.
it didn't bother them having all that time of just quiet, not thinking.
No, I think that's one interesting thing about it is that it's if you have something to distract you that like around here, then then doing something like that seems impossible. But if you don't have that thing, then it's not like, oh, I'm in withdrawal. It is filling you somehow. Even if it's filling you, it's not filling you with empty boredom. It's filling you with active boredom.
Yeah.
There's an active boredom.
The kind that is the soil for creativity
Right.
that they
It's the
talk
soil
about.
of creativity.
Yeah.
Boredom is the soil of creativity, by which we shall conquer the world. So no, they weren't like, my mind is driving me crazy. I did think that a lot, but not that I was being driven crazy, but I was thinking one of my thoughts was like, I'm not doing anything.
Exactly.
Like I'm doing nothing but walking. And I like the ability to elongate my not doing all the things and to sit in it and saturate it for a long period. I like the endurance that I'm feeling of existing in my own head. I'm enjoying that, and then you can put whatever you want into that also, whether it's a prayer, or song, or
Star Wars.
or just resting, or Star Wars,
Yeah.
or things that you memorize, which is more meditative. But you really actually start thinking, this is good for my soul. This is good for my heart. It's good for my character, my mind. I thought a lot about this is good for mental illness, and so it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's hard, but it's not hard.
Yeah.
It's got its own reward while it's happening. I feel like it's kind of like refashioning. You know how like you have, I'm picturing a guy, a smith with the iron, and he's got a hammer and he's kind of resharpening or reforging things or melting stuff down so it can be reforged. I feel like it's sort of like that, a cleansing that is good for you.
Well, this year you went on the Appalachian Trail, and it was a little bit different. So what did you do this year with the Appalachian Trail?
I feel like this is more like an interview episode.
I am. I'm interviewing you because I don't go on the Appalachian Trail. So
Yet,
I'm
right?
just, I'm asking the questions.
Well, so yeah, we did it totally different this year. I mean, and especially in contrast to last year, because last year the boys and I packed up and we said, we hiked, we went over.
That was epic.
Yeah.
What you guys did.
Yeah, we hiked over 100 miles, close to 20 miles a day. So we're not there too long.
What state did you get to? You got to
We
Virginia,
entered into
right?
Virginia.
Yeah.
Right. And, but it was just great. It was great. Walking hard, walking long. I was clearly the short pole in the tent.
Yeah. Well, that's another ellipse or thing that's happened is, you're going
flipped.
from being like the strong
Them
one.
waiting on me.
Yeah, them waiting on you.
Right. But I think that I pushed them farther than they thought they could go. So
Oh, yeah.
I got the mental.
You have the mental, well, you also have the physical strength. You will go and go and go. So.
And so from going over 100 miles, this year we just went 3 short days. But I invited all the girls in our family.
Right.
So as little as Delilah, who was 10 at the time.
11.
Now she's 11.
No,
She
you're
was
right.
10.
She was
Yep.
10. Oh, yeah.
And then Malia and Hannah and Jordan. Okay, so everybody except for you now
Right.
has been on the Appalachian Trail. And instead of picking up where we dropped off last time, we did another different thing. And that was, we're going to start from the beginning. Because that's just several hours down the road.
Right.
And the girls were being introduced to the trail for the first time. But there's also at the southern terminus, there's before the Appalachian Trail, there's what's called the Approach Trail, which starts at Amicalola Falls. And so it's close to 9 miles before you're technically on the trail. And we never did the Approach Trail. You don't have to, but it's something that it's a tradition a lot of people do if they're starting in the south and going to the north, or even vice versa. So we hiked the Approach Trail mostly, that first almost
Isn't
9
it
miles.
all steps?
It's not all steps. There's a lot of steps.
A lot of steps.
It is a killer.
Yeah, the girls were like, "Oh my gosh, we almost died on the first day."
Yeah, I think they were afraid I was gonna die. They got to see their dad sweat at a whole new
Whole new level.
and breathe, But we did that, and then the first night we camped up on top of Springer Mountain, and then we hiked another part of 2 days. And they had no problem with the hiking, and for them the big takeaway and the experience was they're used to doing something like that, but then taking a shower and then eating a meal and sleeping in a good bed and then waking up the next morning. And you can't do any of that.
Yeah.
You're out there in the wilderness and you have to stay ugly and dirty and gross, and then get up and go again. And now you add the new ugly and dirty and gross, to the next day. And that was what they made a lot of remarks about. I mean, there's plenty strong for it, but that was what they were exposed to for the first time.
Yeah, well, the thing is when you guys came off the trail, we recorded talking about it. So maybe we can include some of that.
Some of the B-roll?
Yeah, some of the B-roll and some of them talking about their experience into this episode.
Well, how about from your perspective, watching us go and do this each year, and then the girls being invited to go, what's your kind of overall take on what it's meant to our family?
I think for one, when you first brought this up when David was, probably before he was 5, and you were mulling over in your mind doing something like that, I was a little bit nervous about it. I was a little bit, I was on board with it, but I was apprehensive because in my mind, I just didn't know how that was all going to work out. But as I watched you prepare with David, especially seeing, the things all laid out in the garage and, you getting the maps of the pieces that you're going to hike and marking things on him and seeing him really love all of that aspect even before you left, it started to kind of, I was like, okay, this is something that is already beneficial to him. But I in my mind, I was like, so is this just going to be a one and done thing? Even though I know that the intention was to continue doing it, but you just don't know how big something like that is, what life is going to be like and all that. And you went on it and came back and had stories. And I was like, oh my gosh.
You almost died on day one?
I don't know if I want to hear about, holding on to pieces of a tent for dear life while the wind is blowing and the rain is torrential and lightning is everywhere and all that. Although I also appreciate those experiences as well. But the one thing that has always really made an impression on me is your willingness and ability and desire to do something like that is not necessarily a comfortable thing, where there has to be planning, where things aren't predictable. Just the pouring into helping our sons develop, skills, and planning and all of that, and to see how diligent you are in wanting to create something real with our boys. And I feel like that is one thing that is just had such an impact on them in their own life. But also I think it's had an impact on them as you as their father, you as their dad, because they have experienced that with you and they have seen you do that, and then they've grown to kind of come alongside and help with that.
I think it was important to take the girls on the trip. I've done a lot of thinking about this, and I don't know how to finally think about it, but it was important to take the girls on the trip because I've understood what it means to the, to boys, but haven't exactly understood what it means to girls. And while you're talking through this, there's a couple of thoughts I have. One is, the whole rites of passage for the guys. There's actually I don't know if you know, there's a rites of passage guru. His name's like Arnold Van Gennep. From the 19th century. He wrote a book called Rites of Passage.
Oh, interesting.
And the three important parts are like separation, and so
like from what what you're used to, being separated
which
from that.
Which is even happening while you're preparing, because you're getting ready. You're talking about you're preparing to do the separation. You're separating out. It's dislodging you from regular routine in life and from the ladies and the other things, or the younger guys. And then there's a transition, and it's like now you belong to something else. You're doing something else, and they might even say, "Okay, you were this, now you're this." You're doing something different, and you might call that transformation. Then at the end, it's called return, and so you're not just gone forever. You come back, but you come back a different thing. And you've talked about seeing that they come back, like a different thing. There's that verse in Romans that says that, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And you could look at that verse like the world has patterns, like the natural order has patterns, and you just kind of keep on doing what's next. But there's also the mind. The mind is deliberating. The human mind can decide. And the human mind can plan and plot. It's part of the natural world also. But it's something that humans have that, like, we can reshape things and we can take it a different direction. That is how you have dominion over the world. It's not that you dominate the world.
Right.
It's that you can decide where to take it. You are a participant in the natural world order. Your mind is part of the gifting to the natural world, and it's part of the natural world. And the boys thrive on saying, we stop, we remove, we switch gear, we come back as a different thing, and then we, participate in, making the world. The guys, they thrive on that. And there's so much meditation that we did in preps and during it. We talked about priorities of work. What are the principles of building a fire?
Right.
What are the major terrain features? How do you identify them? And actually,
did you do this with the girls too?
No,
okay.
We didn't. And as we talked about it afterwards, I remember the girls, they were kind of like, oh, well, we didn't do that. We didn't do that. I mean, the main thing we did was we brought the girls along this last time. And I think that was the main thing they got out of it. It wasn't even all the parts. They wanted to be included. I think that's what the girls wanted more than anything else. And now they want to be included in those other things that the guys got to do. It's not that they wanted to be guys, it's that they want to be included.
Yeah.
And they had as much stamina, if not more, to do those things. And yet, those weren't as much as important, I think, as being included to do those things, because they could also. And maybe I'm saying that wrong, or I'm saying things and I'm analyzing them wrong, but there's something to think about there is, what is it for the guys? What is it for the girls? Maybe it's the same thing. I feel like there's something different, but I can't put my finger on it, but I'd like to explore, that more.
No, I think that that's totally true, because they wanted to participate and be included in something that they have, seen as they've grown up. And even though they've heard you talk about different aspects and seen you do it with the guys, I think you're totally right. They wanted to participate in the going on the trail. And what's funny about that is when it was over and after they'd been home for a little bit, I was like, so do you want to go again? And Jordan was like, maybe.
Is
That
everyone else
has
going?
never been a question with the guys. It's always like, yeah, we're going again. We're going to go next year. We're going to go next year. We're going to go next year.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls are now like, well, we might not. But it was like they needed that. And now they might or they might not, you know? And I find that really interesting because it's more like in being included in that and seeing what it was all about and be able to experience it in a experience was really important. Like, I'm not diminishing that. I think it was really important for them. But now they can possibly go do something else, which is funny to me.
I know, we'll see.
We'll see.
But during just talking through all this, I think the Appalachian Trail has become more important to me than it was before. I see it as more important than I did before. Just sitting here last hour.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that I'd like to start planning it so that it can be part of our year right now. Because
Right.
the moment it's on the calendar and you start planning it, you're experiencing it.
Right. And in the past, it's been kind of like, you know, a month or two out. I mean, there's been talk about it, but really putting it on the
Throwing it
calendar
together.
has been, throwing it together. But that planning definitely, I think, would allow other people to tag along, be a part of it. Is there anything you'd like to add as far as, has it been what you thought it would be?
I mean, I think we had the right concept in the beginning, is to go a certain period of time and then to pick up from where we left off. This is really tracking my trail because I'm the dad that started it.
Right. And you went every time.
And then my kids peel off and they do their own life. And then someday maybe they'll pick up. And some of them have talked about starting from the very beginning. And just on top of that, doing it just of their own and on their own. Just maybe one last thing is that I think that the Appalachian Trail experience is going out and doing it alone, not alone. And it's like everybody hikes their own trail.
That's like a saying, right?
And we do it all. I think, well, I don't know. It's intuitive. It's like
Right.
everybody hikes their own trail.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I don't know if we heard that somewhere or it's just intuitive and we started saying it. Both are probably true.
Yeah.
But you hike your own trail, but to go do it, you know, not alone, or at least rites of passage, not alone.
Yeah.
You know, that's a whole thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we got in everything that, you know, the most important parts about what the Appalachian Trail has been to us.
Right. Awesome.
Did we do it?
We did it.
Right.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Bye.